So it makes sense to look at decimal places and significant figures together. So the first one, rounding to 2 decimal places. Now, when you're doing to decimal places, the first 2 decimal places are the first 2 digits after the point. So in this case, that's the 0.65. So it helps to circle the 0.65 and drop a line after it. And then it's the next digit which helps you decide what's happening to the 0.65. So the next digit, I'll underline in green just so it stands out, is a 5. All the other digits after that are not important to this question. So we can cross out the 6, the 5, the 6, and 3. We don't need those digits. It's this 5 that I've underlined in green that affects what happens to the 65. If that 5 was less than a 5, the 0.65 would stay as it is. It would round down, which means stay as it is. If it's that 5 is 5 or more, so a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9, we need to round the 0.65 up. So 0.65 then rounds up to become 0.66. It's like saying 65 rounds up to 66. Okay, so the 0.65 rounds up to 66, 0.66, and the 3 that's in front of it just stays as it is. So the answer to that one is 3.66. When you're doing significant figures, the first 2 significant figures are not the first 2 digits after the point. That's the first 2 decimal places. The first 2 significant figures are the first 2 digits from the left, which are not zeros. And I'll talk about this not being zeros thing again in a second. So it's basically the first 2 digits which are not zeros. So if we start at the left of the number, the first 2 digits which are not zeros is this 3 and the 6, the 3.6. So they are the first 2 significant figures of this number. Same again, draw a circle around them, drop a line after it, and it's the very next digit which affects what happens to them. So I'm going to underline that in green like I did before. So this 5 affects what happens to the 3.6. There are only 2 options. It's either going to round down and stay as it is, as 3.6, or it's going to round up to 3.7. They are the only 2 options. Again, all the other digits after that 5 are not important to the question, so they might as well all just disappear. It's the 5 that I've underlined in green that's going to affect what happens. And we've already said if it's 5 or more, we round up. So that 5 makes the 3.6 round up to 3.7. And that's your answer to the question. So 3.66 to 2 decimal places, but the same number is 3.7 to 2 significant figures. Now, I did talk about this not zeros, the first digits from the left which are not zeros. And the reason for that rule exists because of this. If you had some numbers which had a load of zeros, really tiny numbers, like that, or maybe like this one, which has got even more zeros in it, then if you had a load of really tiny numbers that began with 0.0 something and then several more zeros as well, if you ever did it to 2 significant figures, if you did not have the rule about the first 2 digits from the left which are not zeros, then every single time to 2 significant figures, the answer would always be 0.0. And that means everything would always be 0.0 if it's a tiny number and there's a load of zeros. But that's not what you do. That's why you skip past all the zeros to the first 2 digits which are not zeros. So the first 2 digits which are not zeros, let me just put another digit on that second one, 7. The first 2 digits which are not zeros in this long one here that ends in 481, if you go past all the zeros, it's 48. And it's the 1 that would affect what would happen. The 1 is less than 5, so the 48 would stay as it is. And you would keep all the zeros in as well. So to 2 significant figures, that one would become 0.48. The other one that's got even more zeros, if you go past all of the zeros, the first 2 significant figures is the 56, 56, 56, okay? And then that 7 is higher than 5, so it makes the 56 round up to 57. So that would become 57, but you can't just leave it as 57. You've got to have all your zeros in there as well. So If it's a number that doesn't begin with any zeros, it's literally just going to be your first 2 digits of the number. So this, back to the question, it was 3.6. They were the first 2 significant figures. But if you've got a whole load of zeros in there, you've got to skip past all those zeros to get to your significant figures. Okay, guys, I hope that helps.